so before we jump in Cricut Design Space, I wanted to show you the tools and supplies that I'm going to be using to bring these two cards together today. I am using my Cricut Joy Xtra, of course, but I've got my Cricut Joy foiling pen. So there is not a Cricut Joy Xtra foiling pen. You have to get the Cricut Joy. It is compatible, and it only has one tip, which is a medium tip, I believe. Unlike the foiling tool for the bigger machines where it comes with 3 different sizes, a small, medium, and large, the Joy only comes with the one. So I also have my Cricut Joy Xtra blade. So we're going to be using both of those today. So I'm going to go ahead and load in my foiling tool here and close the clamp. I've got some cardstock in a really pretty green and red, of course, for the holiday seasons, and also the foiling sheets. I've got this here. I'm going to be using the rose gold from this pack. I will link it down below if it's still available. And this is the one that actually came with the pack itself. This is a silver and gold foiling sheets, and it also comes with these little tape strips, which you will need. Now let's jump in Cricut Design Space and size and design our cards, and then we'll get to the fun part. So here we are in the canvas of Cricut Design Space. The first thing that I want to do is go to the left-hand side toolbar and click on the images. And I'm going to go down to the bottom and click on Advanced Search. And here we are able to adjust the filters, so I am able to only search for things that are compatible with the foiling or pen tool. So I'm going to scroll down here under the operation type and click on Draw. So this is good for if you're using the markers, the pens, or the foiling tool. So now that I have that selected, I want to scroll back up here and also click on the bookmark items because I've got some really pretty designs saved. So now I need to just pull these into the canvas. I'm going to click on this plus sign, and that's going to bring it to the canvas. Let's add in the candy cane. And then this really pretty season greetings. It's so detailed and intricate. Let's add that to the canvas as well. I'm going to click on view at the bottom of the screen, and nothing happened. So I'm going to click on the exit here, and it will now all be populated into the canvas. I'm going to collapse this. So now I can size these down a bit. So now I have these all sized down a bit just so they'll fit on the screen. I need to bring in what is going to be used as the template or the card panel. This is going to be where the Cricut machine is going to cut out the card panel so I don't have to manually cut it out with scissors. So I'm going to click on the shapes once again on the left-hand side toolbar. I am a Cricut Access member, so this is included with my subscription. I'm going to click on this square here, once again collapse this. And now you can change the size of this shape by dragging left to right, up and down, or you can use the top toolbar here and adjust the sizing. I want to make an A2 size card, but I want the panel to be a little smaller than an A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I want to make my panel a little smaller so there is a margin or a space between the panel and the card base. And all of this will make more sense once we're putting it together. Size this however you want. You can size it to a 5 by 7 if you would like, but I want it slightly under an A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 once again. So what I want to do here is press this unlock button here. My shape is selected as well, and I want this to be about 3 3/4 by 5. So let's type in 3.75 and then tab over and type in 5, and then let's lock that in, and that is our card panel. Okay, so once again, this is our card panel. It is sized appropriately, but for this tutorial and for visual purposes, we're going to change the color of this. So up at the top toolbar here, you can see that the operation type is a default as a basic cut, which is what we want because we want the blade to cut this down to size. We're going to change the color to better represent what our card front or panel is going to be. So let's go ahead and click on this red here. And now I want to bring in the elements I want to use for my red card front. So now with this image selected, I'm going to right click and click bring to front, and then I want to bring in the joy as well, so let's size this down. Once again, it is selected. I'm going to right click to bring the item to the front. So now I need to reposition this so it looks a bit better. So I'm going to go onto the right hand side here. This is your layers panel. I'm going to click on the layer I want to move, which is the candy cane, and I want to rotate this, and let's nestle it in that corner, get that better positioned there. And then once again, let's go to the layers panel and click on the text Joy. And let's bring this down. Let's size this down a bit more as well. And I really like how that looks. So one other thing that we need to do with the candy cane and the text Joy, I'm going to click on those in the layers panel. Up at the top toolbar here under the operation type, it is under a pen. I want to change this to the foil because we are using the Cricut foil sheets today. And then you can also change the color, which is going to better represent what your card is going to look like at the end. So what I want to use for this is the rose gold foil. So I'm going to click on the rose gold, and there you can see what it's going to kind of look like on top of a red piece of cardstock. Once again, I'm going to click on Joy on the right hand side layers panel, go back to the operation type, switch it from pen to foil, and once again select the kind of foil I'm going to use, which is rose gold. And there you have it. That is our card. Now I think this will be better if it was a little more centered. So now what I'm going to do is select all of these layers, the 3 layers, which is the basic cut card front and then the candy cane and the Joy text. I'm going to attach this. So now it is one element. It is going to do the foiling first, and then we'll have to switch the foiling tool for the blade for the Cricut machine to then cut this panel out. And you know what? I need to backtrack real quick. I have this selected. I'm going to detach this. Let me select that square layer. I'm going to click on Control D on my keyboard to duplicate this. Move that over. Once again, select all of these layers and reattach them. So now I've got my second card base. It was easier to duplicate it than to bring in another shape and resize it. So I'm going to turn this into a landscape or horizontal position. And I'm going to once again bring in my design, right click and bring that to the front. And here I'm going to manipulate the sizing by dragging the side of the design up and down and left and right. And that looks great. Once again, we need to click on that Season Greetings design. So let's go over to the layers panel here. Click on Season Greetings Background. That is the layer. We need to once again change the operation type to a foil. And then what color do we want this to be in? You know what? Let's change. Let's not make 2 red cards. Let's make a red and a green card. I like that. So we can use the foiling gold on top of a green card panel. I really like how that looks. So once again, I'm going to select both of those layers there and attach them. So now when we move to the next screen, this is going to be broken up based on color. Let's go ahead and click on Make It. Now on this screen here, we are going to be placing our cardstock on a cutting mat. So select On Mat and confirm that. And here you can see the jobs broken up based on color. The red is going to be first. Now this screen is important when using the foil. You don't want to keep your design in this top left corner here because you're going to want to remove the foiling after the foiling's done, but you still need to cut out the card. So there's going to be a step where you need to manipulate what's on your mat without unloading your mat. So let's create a bit of space here. So I'm paying attention to these markings here so I know exactly where I need to lay my cardstock. And let's go ahead and move our second design once again in that same area. So let's go ahead and click on Continue. I'm going to connect my Cricut Joy Xtra via Bluetooth, and then we'll switch to the overhead camera and finish out this process. All right, guys, so now for the foiling process, I have my light grip mat here because I'm using cardstock today. I also have my laptop. I just detached the screen. So we placed our design a little further down on the mat because it's, as a default, it's, you know, always nestled in the top left corner. I want to place my cardstock down probably just about right here. So now it gives us room to place the foil down on our paper, and then it gives us the space that we need to lay down this tape, and then it will cut at the exact inch marks where I have this design laid. So you don't want to cut your cardstock down too much because you don't want the foil to touch your your mat at all. If this foil touches this mat, it's going to take the foil away from the sheet. And so essentially you want enough cardstock to protect the foiling, and then you just need to be aware of your placement. And like I said, we didn't want to nestle it in the top left corner because we are going to have to manipulate things on the mat before we remove the mat from the machine. And we have to do it this way because we are foiling and then cutting. So I'm going to bring in these little tape strips that came with this pack here. And again, this is the rose gold. Now I'm going to place the foil at the correct inch marks where I've got the design on Design Space. So I need to just make sure that the foiling is really in that correct spot, and then the cardstock, you know, protects the surrounding area. And make sure it's tight as well. So once again, we are working on mat number 1, which is the candy cane design. I'm going to click on this screen here. I'm going to click on the medium cardstock 80 pound. It is saying to move the star wheels over, which I have already done. You just slide them across. So I'm going to select got it. And I'm going to change the pressure from default to more. The default seems to not really get a good impression with my machine. And now it says make sure the foil transfer tool is loaded in the clamp, and then load our mat. So our foiling tool is already loaded. So now I'm going to let this register. It's going to make sure that the mat is aligned. And then once it's aligned, it's going to prompt us to select go on the computer for the foiling process. Same process with every other craft. Now I'm going to select go, and now this is going to have, you know, more added pressure instead of the default, so that rose gold really gets pressed into that really pretty poppy red cardstock. Okay, so the foiling is done, and the computer says important, do not unload the mat, but what you need to do is remove your foil and then replace the foiling tip with the blade, because once again, we are foiling and then cutting. Let's hope this turned out. See, it's just not really adding enough pressure in certain areas. That's so odd. It just needs a little more gold in this little area here. So once again, let's remove the foiling tip and replace it with the blade and close the clamp. And now I'm going to press go for the cutting process so we can cut down the card front or card panel. All right, and the cutting is done. So now I can unload the mat. And best practice, especially when working with cardstock, bend your mat, not your paper. It'll help reduce curling of your cardstock. And now we've got our really pretty panel with that rose gold detailing. So it's got a check mark on mat number 1, and mat number 2 is ready for us. I'm going to select 80 pound cardstock again. It's saying the same thing, make sure the rollers are moved. I'm going to change the pressure to more once again. And the same process, let's bring in our mat, bring in our cardstock, and place it on the side just like so. And for this one, I want to use a gold. And I forgot to mention on the first project, you want the foil side up. And then once again, place the foil down where the design is in Design Space. So click on that mat if you need to have a better look of where to place everything. Pay attention to those inch marks on the screen and on your mat. And I'm going to reuse these little strips here. Okay, so this is ready for us, but before we continue, we need to remove our blade and replace it with the foiling tip. And I'm going to do the same process. I need to load my mat and get this foiled and then cut out. All right, guys, so we've got our panels done. I've pulled 110 pound cardstock for the card bases and also this gold foiling sheet. Let me zoom in so y'all can see this a little bit better. We are making 2 different cards today in 2 different orientations, one a landscape and one a portrait. So let's make the portrait one first. So I've already created a crease in it. So I'm just taking my bone folder here and folding that down. So we are working on the portrait orientation first, and this is the card base in 110-pound cardstock. I just buy my cardstock from Hobby Lobby. And the dimensions of the card base are 11 by 4 1/4. And when you fold it, it is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So let me bring in this red design here. And I'm just gonna use this Precision Art glue. It's barely art glue. And I'm going to place glue on the panel because we sized this down. So we would have a bit of a margin. And I do have magnets. So let me open this up and magnetize that down so it doesn't shift too much. And now I want to center align this. And just like that, you have a A2 size card and a portrait orientation. I love that rose gold on top of this poppy red. And this is a top folding card as well. So moving on to the second card, which is a landscape orientation. The dimensions for this 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. Trying to do my best here without bringing out my scoring board. I am just folding it and then creating a crease with my finger. And then I'm going to take my bone folder here and really press this down, holding those, trying my best here to hold that down so it doesn't shift. So this folds evenly, and my bone folder just made a line on the paper. Bummer. Okay, so let's just turn it over on the nicer side because I don't think, oh, you know what? What am I thinking? We're going to cover that up. So landscape card base. Let's open this up. Let's bring in this gold foil sheet, which is sized to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 to fit on the front of this card base. And you can pick up this gold foil at Hobby Lobby as well, anywhere that sells, you know, quite a bit of paper. So I'm making sure that that was lined up and glued down. And then let's bring in the Season's Greetings. And you could build this up if you wanted with foam tape, if you wanted some dimension. You could also add some embellishments if you wanted to create a little more texture and shine. You can definitely take this in a couple different directions. Also, I used green and red. Navy is a really nice color as well. You could do black and gold. It's very classy and modern. Making sure that that is pressed down. One thing that I like to do is to use my magnets to really add that pressure that it needs to all get adhered. If you have a glass mat, this is definitely a little trick because this is really weighted. And if you had something else, you could put on top of it and then put the magnets on it. But nevertheless, this is our second card, and I love how detailed this design is. It is a bummer that there's some little places that aren't as vibrant. If you are having problems with your Cricut Joy or Cricut Joy Xtra in the same way, I would love to know. I want to try to figure out why the pressure is different. But that is it, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed the video and you learned some things along the way. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next Card or Craft. Bye, everyone.